All right, Juventini, welcome back to the All Juvecast. This is episode 141, and we're going to recap the 2-0 victory against Roma in a big match, as February is going to be crucial for this Juventus side. And covering this one with me, I got my man Johnny joining me. Johnny, good morning. Bright and early for the two of us, but thanks for making it out. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to kind of recap this match. And I had an espresso to kind of wake me up, and now I'm on my second cup, so I'm ready to
Oh,
go.
there you go. There you go. I had one myself, and I'm ready to go. Again, we got an interesting one to cover in terms of emotions from Juventini and feelings towards this match. The 2-0 victory. It was pretty much a very Allegri-esque Juventus performance, but ultimately we got the job done and got the 2-0 victory. So keep the clean going. Three straight, first time that's happened under Pirlo. And there were quite a bit of positives in there too, and pertaining to a certain Capitano at the back too, who was absolutely stellar. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to break it down, but we're going to kick it off with how you're feeling about seeing the starting lineup in this one. Okay, so to start it off, we had Szczesny in goal, Danilo, Bonucci, Chiellini, Sandro, with Chiesa, Artur, Rabiot, and McKennie across the middle, with Morata and CR7 up top. So before I get into any thoughts or anything like that, I want to hear your thoughts on that lineup and what you were thinking, how you were feeling going into this match, Johnny.
I think going into the match, I felt confident with the lineup. I think it's a strong lineup. There's maybe a position or two that I would have swapped out just as a preference. I always feel confident going up against a stronger team and in the league with having a player like Delict, starting out the back. Um, I think he's grown so much under Pirlo, and I think he's just a force to be reckoned with. And I think he complements playing alongside Chiellini very well, even though it feels like they haven't really got to play with each other all that much. Um, but nonetheless, there was a strong lineup. It was a game that Juventus needed to win, and I think Pirlo put a lineup out there that was balanced and gave us the opportunity to get the result. And at the end of the day, you mentioned Allegri esque. We got the result, and I had flashbacks of those Allegri days for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is interesting looking at these lineups before, like when they're on paper and working it out in your mind of how it's going to play out. Right. That's one of the interesting things around Pirlo's Juventus, because we saw this lineup, and I had a discussion with another Juventino, and we both got it wrong in terms of how this thing was going to play out. I mean, we're sitting there and dissecting this thing, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if it were me, I would keep Sandro as one of the three center backs. Okay. I would push up Danilo on the other side, make him play that right wing back slot, get Chiesa moving forward, and Chiesa on the opposite side of Sandro, which would make him on the left, which is kind of odd, but push up through Danilo, because in my mind, the way I see Sandro is I see a guy that he doesn't have his pace anymore. He's lost quite a bit in terms of pace, step, and he looks like he's burnt out almost and gets out of gas very, very quickly. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, you know, we know Chiesa is stronger on the right, but in terms of if we're going to rest Quadrado, I would see Danilo as a good slot in over there, right? And then it was vice versa for the Juventino I was talking to. He said, well, no, I'm thinking Sandro's going to be the one pushing. Danilo will keep the three at the back. My other thought process on this was Bonucci is it just can't be in the heart of the defense. So if we use Sandro as that third CB, it puts Chiellini in the heart when we make our shift there. And lo and behold, both of us were completely wrong because it played out as a flat 4-4-2 pretty much. McKennie had the odd instance here and there where he would kind of slot into that attacking mid role, but for the most part, they just kept it as a flat 4-4-2, and yeah, we saw how it played out. Now the thing with this, and we'll go through it as we discuss this match. Mixed feelings on when we deploy the team in that sense. But is that what you expected seeing the lineup too? Did you expect it a flat 4-4-2 just because it was labeled that way, or were you thinking one of those guys was going to end up making that shift there?
I think after seeing the lineup, you expect one of those guys to be making the shift. I think just it's Pirlo's game plan and style, and he wants aggressive attacking football. I agree with you with Sandro. I have like you appreciate his time and hard work with his club, but I almost have a love-hate relationship with him because he doesn't do anything spectacular, but doesn't do anything terrible either. But Pirlo seems to have found a role with slotting Danilo in that center back role, and he feels confident with Danilo there. And I know last season we weren't too crazy about Danilo's performances under Sarri, so it's nice to see a player like that find his confidence again in a different role. So
yeah,
it was kind of shocking to see just a flat 4, but it ended up working out. I felt that Roma was finding the seams very well, and through Juventus defense, and but we're capitalizing on the opportunities either. So it ended up working out, very well with that flat 4, and it gave the ability for some of our attackers to make those runs that we wanted. Chiesa being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I see some everybody's joining the chat now. Antonio, Banju, and Abdul. Ciao, guys. Banju just asking to increase volume, Johnny. So Johnny, while he does that, I'm going to start breaking into some of the key moments in this match. We'll go through the first half, and then we'll discuss we'll break it down at the end of the half here. So basically we kick off this match, and for the first opening minutes, Roma's really pressing, doing well, controlling play. They actually were causing quite a bit of confusion for Juventus, as we saw basically the guys in the middle really struggling for duties and whatnot. It was a little bit frustrating because we were losing shape so quickly and whatnot. But we continued on, and really out of nowhere, to be honest, 13th minute, CR7 strikes, and literally out of nothing, Sandro's got the ball out on the side. He beats Cristante and runs in. You see that drop off at Roma there, and they all kind of push back. Morata takes a step backwards, opens himself up for Sandro. Sandro hits him, and Morata slots over to Ronaldo, standing still, simply stops the ball, lets what looks like honestly a harmless shot go, left-footed, not much on it, but just enough, right in the perfect spot. I mean, side netting. 1-0 Juve, and there you go. That's what team does this remind you of? Controlling play, dominating play, not generating much for opportunities, and yet the opponent looks more dangerous on attacking intervals. It was like we flipped the script, because for a while now, like under Pirlo, we've done a good job of controlling play and dominating play, and there are certain matches where we struggle to create, and our opponents will counter us because of how much we commit in the attack. And this was literally like the opening 15 minutes was a complete opposite of what we're used to. So a bit of a strange one, but your thoughts on how that match opened up here. And real quick, I just see Panju asking, can you ask questions here? Absolutely, man. Let it all come in here. And Abdul, appreciating Johnny's setup in the back there. Great to see the guest competing with a Belcher in terms of aesthetics of the background. Yeah, he's got some beauties there. I like it. I love the setup there, Johnny. So, opening 15 minutes, did you get the feeling of roles reversed like I was talking to? What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, it was almost caught off guard with that goal. I think, a nice flat-footed left foot shot by Ronaldo. I mean, that's just to show you the talent that the guy has. To pull off a shot like that and the vision. But all credit to Morata, for finding that quick pass to Ronaldo, who was kind of open on the top of the box. But you have visions of a team that, again, that looked like it was a squad from the Allegri days, and they took advantage of an opportunity. I think that's what we need to start doing more. We have some great build-up play, like you mentioned, and we have nothing to results. And there's some games prior where we've got hit with counterattacks, and just because like we've been pushing up so much. So it's nice to see the fruits of the labor. I was caught off guard by the goal. I just wasn't expecting it, just by the way Ronaldo's stance was. He was flat-footed. He kind of received the ball and just shot it with his left foot. Had enough spin on it to to hit the back of the net. So I think it changed the tempo of the game, especially with the first 10 minutes or so. I think credit to Roma. Spinazzola looked great. They were passing at the top of our 18-yard box very well. And it kind of deflated the balloon a little bit on the Roma end, and we were able to kind of put our stamp on the game at that point and move the ball accordingly. And I think it was nice to see, and hoping to build off that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always nice. I mean, that's the ultimate shutdown for a team that's controlling you or kind of dominating plays. Get that first one. And honestly, we'll break this one down a little bit more at half. I think it was huge for Juventus to get that first one based on how we deployed the team and what Pirlo wanted to do, because you could tell quickly in this one, he just wanted to keep Roma to the outside, a team that floods the middle of the park. He clearly wanted to keep it on the outside. There was a trade-off for the way we deployed our team. So we had to make sure almost that we were kind of clinical, because it was one of those setups when we go straight flat 4-4-2, we do sacrifice ourselves in terms of offense and how much we can generate and whatnot. And it's one of those things. It's one of those trade-offs. But in this one, huge for us to get that first one. So we continue on. Roma, honestly, doesn't let up, though. Give them credit where it's due. I mean, they continue pushing. Cristante in the 20th minute just misses on a volley off a short clearance by Juve, a little bit of a scramble there. And then literally like 2 minutes later, again, seemingly out of nowhere, Morata crosses a ball over, defender unable to stop the ball. Ronaldo takes it down, hammers this one. It gets deflected. I think his initial shot was going low and far post and probably would have had a better chance of going in. The deflection still almost goes in, hits the bar, and that could have been 2-0. And then honestly, what became the Chiellini show almost for a while after that and right through to the end, because from the 22nd minute, literally we get probably to about the 40th minute where Roma's really controlling play, trying to come at us in waves. But honestly, just Chiellini and company not having any of it. Roma really not doing much, and Juve just handling it, and honestly, quite comfortably, to be honest. So in the 40th minute, we get an opportunity again, just out of nowhere on a counter. Morata pops a nice ball over the top. Ronaldo volleying that thing, trying to go for our post. Keeper forced to make a save. We kind of go into halftime. I saw a few opportunities for Roma as well, coming from some questionable non-calls by the ref. And I was kind of like, wow, it was a little hit and miss from the ref, but ultimately by no means was it deciding anything or making things a little more interesting, because the back was pretty much shored up. Chiellini was fantastic at this half. We go into the halftime. All I'm thinking is I'd like to see us get a little more control in terms of the play. I thought maybe you could make an adjustment, because the times we did try to build up or play, Roma did the same thing. We were keeping Roma to the outside, but they shut down our outsides. So we were looking to advance from that. We'd only get to a certain point and the door was shut, and we couldn't seem to play centrally because, like I said, the trade-off for us was Pirlo keeping things flat. So keeping McKennie outside, not moving him centrally, we kind of took away our own triangles, so to speak. And honestly, in the first half, we didn't need it. We were good on counters. And again, it just gave me that feeling of roles reversed. But ultimately, it was still comfortable. I wouldn't mind some more control coming into the second half, and just wanted us to make sure we keep the focus, because these 1-goal leads are dangerous. We know what we're up against. We have little to no margin for error left, really, in terms of points. So, yeah, that part made me nervous. Even though our defense looked good, I wanted to go in the second half, get a bit more control, just because anything can happen. Say a PK, whatever situation, and it's harder on the guys. Even Chiellini talks about it all the time. If you're playing off the throttle, eventually it just gasses your guys out, because they're just trying to defend and defend and defend. He says it's always easier when you're on the front foot. But your thoughts at halftime, Johnny, and anything you wanted to see going into the second half?
No, I think this game was a pretty clear-cut game. I agree with you on most talking points, but you felt good coming into the half. It was unfortunate Ronaldo hit the crossbar at that point. You would love to hear that, have that 2-0 goal going in. They say the 2-0 goal is the most dangerous, score line in football, but it's still, to me, it's better than 1-0, and I think it's less taxing on the players, especially if we come out in the second half and we can control the pace and create passes. But overall was happy with the result going into halftime, and was looking for, obviously, Juve to capitalize in the second half and take advantage of the opportunities that Roma provided us. But always going into the game 1-0, there is, you have in the back of your mind, what if there's a penalty? What if something, how cross comes in the box and somebody gets a head on it? There's always in the back of your mind. So a little bit more control would have been nice. I thought we were scrambling a little bit in certain areas, or just kind of pushing the ball up and not really controlling the tempo in the middle of the field. But I think we gave up some space, and that was to create opportunities in the attacking. So you have to kind of weigh the options, the way the game was going. Our defense was solid. Chiellini was phenomenal. I'm sure we're going to touch on Chiellini and how great he looked and what that means in the future. So all things considered, felt great going into halftime, and was hoping to take advantage of Roma in the second half.
Yeah, and we're gonna take some of these questions, because there's a lot of activity here in the chat here and whatnot. Ken asking about any news on the health of McKennie. I haven't seen anything on McKennie yet. We'll see if it updates by the time we get later on in this podcast. I know the knock on Bonucci is not serious, and he took himself out for precautionary reasons. A fantastic luxury for Juventus that we have De Ligt that can come on in place of him, even Demiral. So very, very nice. Panju coming in with, for me, an issue came up in the first half was Rabiot playing on the right. I felt we could have done better if Pirlo sent McKennie on the right and Rabiot on the left. What do you think? Johnny and I were discussing this at the start in terms of the lineup. If you were going to put him on the right, that means that Chiesa slots over to the other side. And it essentially, it would have made Danilo that forward moving wing back, which I think is fine. And what I like about this Pirlo setup, and this is kind of proves the point, is it can change to that mid-match. At any point of the match, you can change that with one simple shift. So I actually like that. I like that flexibility. I think we're still like maybe one or two tweaks from really having something that can do some serious damage. And for me, it's finding the balance even when he's in this flat setup. If he wants to keep it 4-4-2, that's great. But if we're up against somebody that maybe we can't shut down as easily, I'd like to see us still be able to generate a bit more, right? And not solely rely on the counter opportunities. Yeah, it's just a preference thing. But Rabiot for me had a very, very good match. I thought he had such a clean match, like just doing a lot of the just solid work. You'd see him slop behind Danilo quite a bit. Okay, so when Danilo would step up in those instances, Rabiot recognized it immediately and would hold himself back, and he allowed Artur McKennie to move up a bit and advance a bit, and he just kind of he was really a cleanup guy, and he did his job fantastically. So I was really happy with Rabiot's play. What do you think in terms of Rabiot there, Johnny?
I agree. I think Rabiot had a good game. I think he doesn't get the credit sometimes from the critics. I know we expect a lot more from Rabiot in certain situations, but it all depends who's he's alongside in that midfield. And I think having Artur and McKennie there, um, you know, allowed Rabiot to kind of play his game. I think he had a great half. I think he had great pace. He moved. I think one thing about Rabiot that I like is he's constantly moving. He's never standing still. He's constantly moving. He's moving behind defenders. He's sliding up. He's constantly with the pace, and there's a great tempo to his game. And I think the more opportunities he gets and the more big games he gets to play, he gets to show those opportunities. And I think it showed in this game. A lot of times a midfielder in that role doesn't get the recognition and the praise sometimes that they deserve for doing all the grunt work. But he had a great match. Um, and I love the tenacity and the grinta that he shows when he plays. Um, so I was happy with the match, and I think to be honest, having Artur in the midfield, uh, you know, he controls the game and kind of slows it down, but then can evade two defenders, and it gives the ability for Rabiot to make a run for other midfielders to create space for Artur, and it benefits. They all kind of complement each other in different ways. So it's nice to see, and it's nice to see them moving, up and down and kind of slotting back when another moves up, and it's a beautiful thing to see when it's all work. It's a well-oiled machine, and it's a credit to the Juventus DNA, and it's a credit to Pirlo to bring that out of the players. Pirlo, obviously, when he came to Juventus, he was playing under Allegri, so you would like to think that he took things from Allegri that he saw and kind of puts it into his own formula, his own game plan. So it was nice to see. And it's nice to see the luxury that we have in terms of players being versatile, and then having the ability to bring players off the bench to kind of fill roles that we could slot in any which way. The way we start the game is not necessarily the way we're going to end.
Yeah.
I think it's the team is starting to gel, and it's looking good.
Yeah, it's promising. It really, really is. And yeah, we talked about these positives coming out of Pirlo's side, and just the adaptability is there. And again, probably just a couple tweaks that are really making something that's dangerous. But yeah, it's definitely coming. And speaking to Juventini as of late, like much better in terms of what the expectations were going into the season. If we're being honest, with a rookie coach, granted he was an amazing player or whatnot, but it doesn't always translate into coaching. And honestly, if you were going to sit there at the start of the season and you were going to say, hey, we've got Pirlo going into this, his first gig as a coach. We saw what was happening in the first transitional year post Allegri. If you were going to say, hey, we're going to be in a spot, 21 games in, where We're about 7 points out of top spot. We're on the brink of going to the Coppa Italia final. We have won the Supercoppa, and we're about to face Porto, finishing top in our Champions League group. We'd all be laughing. You'd probably be like, oh man, I don't know about that or whatnot, right? But here we are, and credit where credit's due, right? So it's on the up, and he's got something fantastic going. We just got to, like I said, I think we're a couple tweaks and maybe one skill set a player away, but we'll get to that later. We're going to finish up with the second half kind of notes and highlights here. 56th minute, CR7 ends up making a great break on the counter, finds here Morata up top, who just goes wide, but called back for offside as Roma was pressing the line all match. And man, they were playing with fire there because CR was very, very close on a couple where he was almost still in our half, but about half a step off there. So they continued in that manner despite being 1-0 down. So Roma was sticking to their game plan. That was clear. 60th minute, Mkhitaryan gets into a great opportunity. He's such a tricky little player. He creates a lot of space for himself. He's actually pretty fun to watch. But the shot easily handled by Szczesny. In the 64th minute, we get a change. Cuadrado ends up coming in for McKennie, and then Kulusevski ends up coming in for Morata. At the time, I liked these changes. McKennie, while I think was kind of, I saw a lot of people just kind of saying he did nothing and like he was invisible and stuff like that. He did his job because of the way Pirlo wanted it to shape up and essentially stop Roma. We just kept him to the outsides. McKennie spent an absurd amount of energy in the defensive phase. So it's hard to attack him for the offensive side of things and saying he wasn't involved as much, because we pretty much played that Catenaccio style and then counter attack. So he did his part, but man, a nice couple of names to be able to throw off the bench there. Cuadrado coming in off the bench and then Kulusevski. I liked it. Let's see what can happen. And then and a great run by Kulusevski, and Cuadrado puts a perfect ball in there. Kulusevski trying to cross it in, and Ibanez could do nothing but get it into his own net on that cross. And CR7 right there lurking would have tapped her home. So there you go, 2-0. Again, Cuadrado with an assist. And then I know a lot of Juventini, again, the frustrations come almost immediately after in balls that he gives up. And then you see the picture of Nedved up in the stands, basically just smashing his knees with his fists because of a giveaway from Cuadrado. It's the adventures of Johnny Cubed. It really is, man, with Cuadrado. He'll take you to the ultimate high. He'll take you to the lowest of lows. It's just ride that roller coaster, but he's making key assists. So, it is what it is. But man, 2-0 up. We go through, essentially, that is it. We have to lock down the defense. Again, Chiellini shows what he's got. He's putting it through. 80th minute, hard cross from Dzeko, or hard cross from Roma. Dzeko just can't get to it. In the 81st, we see Bernardeschi come on for Chiesa. In the 82nd, Dzeko gets another header that goes wide. 84th minute, Bonucci has to come off. We talked about that, more precautionary. De Ligt comes in. Sandro goes out. Demiral comes in. And then, again, we just pretty much see this one out. Pretty comfortable for how hard Roma was pressing and whatnot. And at the end of the day, we had to take a look at the sideline and make sure it was in fact Pirlo and not Allegri. Felt like that type of match, but we got the points. That was the most important thing. 2-0 victory. And man, honestly, like, we look at this comment from Antonio. I think Pirlo learned his lesson from the game in Roma, gave up possession to hit them on counters. Pirlo showing good tactics, and these games win you titles. our manager showing maturity. Pretty solid comment there, and kind of shows you that he's learning. And I said in the pre-match live about Pirlo, he's actually showing a great job in between matches and adjustments. I think that last, we talked about the tweak earlier on, is just in-game dialing it up just a notch. But he hasn't truly had to for quite some time now, because we've been playing quite well. If you take back that kind of blackout against the Merda there on January 17th, that was really it. But we had a great January. We've got a couple good victories here so far in February. And man, honestly, I like what's happening. And I'm okay with these types of matches occasionally. But could we make a living off it? I don't know if we're that Juve of old, but it gave you that feeling of the Juve of old. And Chiellini, he turned back the clock, right? But I think that's where it lies with most Juventini. You don't want to try and make a living playing this way, But your thoughts come the end of the match and just Pirlo. And again, this was a match that had those mixed feelings, And I watching it, to be honest, that mixed feelings. I was happy watching Chiellini and seeing that we were able to shut the door and lock it down. But I did want more in terms of offense. So just your overall thoughts on the end of the game as we get into player performances, man of the match, and a bunch of other good stuff here.
Yeah, I think watching Juventus the last couple of years, there's always that feeling of wanting a little bit more. We've settled for certain results with this team over the past, I'd say, 2 seasons, maybe 3. But there's always that feeling that you want a little bit more. You expect a little bit more, but you've learned to live with just the results and and what we've seen. So I'm impressed with Pirlo. I'm happy with the strides that he's taking. I think our depth gives Pirlo a lot of options, and I think it's a great luxury that we have, and especially if everyone's healthy. So there's always that feeling of wanting a little bit more, and but as a Juventus fan growing up, I've just learned to live with accepting not getting a little bit more and accepting the results. And it's just something I've learned to live with. I just say this is how it is, and I have to accept the results. So but I'm happy with the turn that we're seeing. Like you said, great February to start. January was a great month outside of the map of the game. So good things to come, and I'm looking forward to the second half of the season under Pirlo. And if everyone stays healthy, I think we have a legitimate shot at the title. Just gotta keep pace with the two Milan teams at the top of the table. And I think eventually they will drop points, and we just need to stay consistent. So
Yeah.
I think Pirlo knows that. I think he's keeping the cool in the locker room as well. I think the players know that, and I think now it's about getting the results instead of individual accomplishments or style of play. I think Pirlo was looking for style of play and different formations early on in the season, and I think he has a good idea now what he needs to put out there to get results. And as a coach, and that's what you need to do. At this point, we need to get the results. So Pirlo's on track.
Yeah, I have to agree. Vishwajit joining, saying ciao Vishwajit. Thanks for joining. And we've got some man of the match call outs here. So get your man of the match, everyone joining live. So Antonio goes for man of the match. For me, our number 3, Capitano King Kong. Like I said, when he's on form, he's just as decisive as CR7. And then Ken coming in with his man of the match being CR7. I think for me, if you were going to pick man of the match, you had between CR7, King Kong, and honestly, the outside shot, just in terms of football shit, Rabiot could have been a shout. But I went Chiellini all day in this one. For me, he was the man of the match, no doubt. Vishwajit even coming in saying that fascinatingly, I was against Bonucci, but man, he plays good with Chiellini. When Chiellini's on, he's got that ability. And it's been said for a while now as we watch Bonucci kind of went through those struggles there. He's not that guy. Bonucci just isn't. There's nothing wrong with that because ultimately at center backs, you have to form a partnership that works. But for me, Chiellini, man of the match. CR7 did very well, especially when you talk about a low number of opportunities. He did very, very well and was actually dangerous throughout. But Chiellini, he sniffed everything out and handled it quite easily. So he's my man of the match. Johnny, your man of the match.
Yeah, I think I've seen in the comments, a lot of CR7. I've seen, the defense. I think I want to give the nod to CR7 just because the results as of late, he's been a little, I don't want to say lethargic, but in and out in certain spurts during games and looking for those goal opportunities and haven't really come. I would feel from Ronaldo's perspective. So with the amount of chances he received and the opportunities taken, I think he was worthy of the man of the match. But I have to say that Chiellini was the man of the match, in my opinion. Ronaldo, great game, made use of the opportunities that were provided. He was dangerous, but man, Chiellini looked about 5-6 years younger.
Oh yeah. It was unbelievable, man. I literally said that he turned back the clock on this one, man.
He had a few healthy knees there, and I think and credit to the defense and Bonucci is what he is. You can't have two aces back there or two capitanos back there, and I think Bonucci plays well off of Chiellini, and that's all you could ask for. I think Chiellini's presence is huge on and off the pitch for this team. On the pitch, man, he's a force to be reckoned with when he's healthy. So man of the match, Chiellini.
Absolutely agree. And now we get to the fun stuff, and actually Antonio coming in with a solid question that will kick off some of these outside player performances. Do you guys agree Kulu is more an impact player coming off the bench rather than starting? A bit like Costa was when he came off the bench for us. So it's a good question. We talked about it in this match, and when we made that change around the 64th minute, it was great to see those as options. I couldn't help but feel for a couple seasons now, our bench wasn't what it should be, and we were just, it turned out that you almost knew you had to get it done with that 11 because the impact wasn't coming from the guys that were stepping out there. I don't have that feeling anymore with this team. We have a good balance, good mix of players and guys that can come off and make the difference. Whether it be Kulusevski or even pulling a guy like Chiesa off the bench is huge. That's huge. Solid options. Is Kulusevski going to be better as an impact player? This is, I think, has some context to it in order to truly answer. I think it depends on the opponent and what the opponent gives you and how we want to play. Because, if we watch Kulusevski, if we're going a flat 4-4-2, I know this goes against almost everything I've said, prior, because I think Morata is so huge to this team. Just the fact that he actually plays it like a true number 9. But if you're going to play this style 4-4-2, this flat almost just to try and shut them down, that balance in play that we were talking about earlier and maybe being able to generate more, maybe is that Kulusevski sitting behind CR who then slots up top so that he can kind of assist us in moving the ball forward and then going on that way, right? And that's exactly what he did when he came on. He actually shifted just and sat behind CR and just ahead of the midfield. In terms of that, maybe this one he could have done more from the start. But as a sub, I think he'll always be effective, because if you get a guy like that, a kid who's strong, and he's good on the ball, he's got good technical ability, and he's comfortable running at defenders, he'll always be effective as a sub, in my opinion. As a starter, I think it really depends on how we want to play, what the opponent's going to give us, and what's going to happen. In when we switch to our 3-5-2, him as a second striker, I think it becomes hit and miss again based on how we're going to end up playing with the opponents. If he ends up in scenarios where his back's to goal too much, I think he's going to struggle. So if he's got a little bit more freedom, and sometimes those you're not going to be able to tell until you get into the match. So it's kind of one of those things. But Kulusevski is a great option. I think he'll always be an impact guy off the bench. Starting, I think, depends how we want to face our opponents. What do you think in terms of that, Johnny?
Yeah, I think from the first game that I saw Kulu play, where you saw his technical abilities kind of showed off. I think it was game 1 of the season. You knew that there was something there. I think coming off the bench, he's always going to be a threat. I think he's a young, talented player. He's only 20 years old, and he's very technical. He's not afraid to take chances. And I think that when you have a player like that who's young, hungry, and excited to show what they can do, when you have a player on the field who's underperforming, or maybe, the game is just not working out for them that day, you have a player like Kulu that comes onto the field, he could create something out of nothing. And he has shown already that he links up very well with Ronaldo, which is huge, right? So, it just makes for great options off the bench. I don't know about him replacing Morata, maybe, or playing with his back to the goal like that. I think he's a player that needs to build up with the ball and play off of a number 9 and play off of other technical players. 1-2 touches on the outside of the box, and his left foot is dangerous. So I'm excited for this kid. I'm excited when he starts. I'm excited to see him come off the bench, because I know he's going to make something out of nothing if given the opportunity, and he will, he'll show the results, I think, and I think that's the most important thing. So I think he's a great player. I think he's young. He's got to learn a lot, but he's getting opportunities in the first team with Juventus as a 20-year-old, and there's a lot of promise there.
Hey, we just had a little bit of a glitch there. Johnny, you're still with me? There you go. Okay. No, great insight. Great insight on Kulusevski. We're going to keep it moving here. Antonio, you're spot on, Alberta, with quality of squad comments. Jesus, I still remember the final in Cardiff when we brought off the bench Rincon and Lamina. Yeah. Thanks for the reminder, Antonio. Oh, man. Okay. Let's get into this. Actually, Abdul's got a comment here. Pirlo has an arsenal of options compared to Sarri and maybe even Allegri. He can choose how to utilize them according to the opponents and circumstances of the game. Absolutely, which is exactly what we were speaking to. Great comment, Abdul. I agree. He can deploy them as he sees fit based on what he wants to do against the specific opponent. And now a player I want to talk about is Alex Sandro. So this was an interesting one, reading people's thoughts on Alex Sandro after this match. I saw some saying it was his best in years, and I saw others saying, what game were you watching? So Sandro is he's a funny one. I think he personally always looks gassed to me. I think he's just, in terms of his speed, his pace, and all that, I think it's kind of fallen by the wayside. He's definitely lost a step or whatnot. Defensively, I always feel comfortable with him. I never have any issues defensively. It's always more of a question, is he going to be able to support enough in the offensive phase? Or is he just going to hang back and just strictly be that defensive guy? Pirlo's setup, his match and everything, and his style, everything is pretty demanding on those guys that want to go up and down those flanks. In this particular match, man, I don't think I would say it was his best in years. I don't think I could say that. Was it a good match by Sandro? I think it was an okay match. I think he had an okay match. I think he had moments where it was fantastic, but some of those great moments were actually because of errors he had made, and then he recovered. So it was like, okay, do you really praise him for all that much? Because we shouldn't have been in that scenario. He had some brutal giveaways. He's probably the most one-footed player I've ever seen, arguably in my life. He won't even put a pass with his right foot if the guy's 5 feet away, which is frustrating at times. But yeah, he does his job, and he'll give you everything he has, whether it's at a slower speed than we would prefer or whatnot. He does give you absolutely everything he has. I think Sandro had an okay match. If I had to throw a rating out there, I'd say he had like a 6.5, maybe on the verge. A 7 seems even a little much. I think above the 6 there. So I'd say like 6.5 or something. Your thoughts on Sandro in this match?
Yeah, I think I alluded to it earlier. He's not really done anything spectacular, and he hasn't done anything catastrophic. He's just kind of one of those players for me. So I thought he showed instances where he was strong on the ball. He plays with a lot of grinta, but like you said, he's just, I don't know. He doesn't do anything crazy for me that I'm pulling hair out of my head, but he doesn't do anything to wow me either. So
yeah,
I think he's a safe player. I think he had a good game. I think 6.5 is fair, maybe 6, just for the few giveaways in the match that could have resulted in an opportunity for Roma. Alexandro, he is what he is. I don't think we're going to see anything above that, and I don't think we're going to see anything less. And I think we know what we get with Sandro, and we work with that. And similar to Guardado, we take the highs, we take the lows. I think the lows are not as bad with Sandro, but a 6.5 is a fair rating for me, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and here we go with some questions in regards to Sandra. And shout out to Colin, who's just joined us. He says he's late to the party and asking how everybody's doing. Everybody's doing good, man. Thanks for joining. Vishwajit. So question, has Alex Sandro showed the promise for cementing his position in the 11? So, I mean, yeah, I think the argument's there for him being in the starting 11, as it is for a lot of other guys. We just finished talking about the options Pirlo has at his disposal. The question becomes, kind of what Abdul's saying here is his takeaway is from last night's game. Sandro should play the big games or against difficult right wing backs to contain them. Nothing flashy or over the top, but plays with experience. So this is, a question of personal preference is what it becomes, because, if you looked at, if we were going to play in that manner, you could easily make the argument that Danilo on that left side with Cuadrado on the opposite is a better overall. Danilo's done well to put himself in that position to make that argument. There was a long time we had nothing but Alex Sandro, and Alex Sandro was it. We no longer have that, and I think again we just talk about the benefits Pirlo has. Pirlo can rest this guy now, and he can utilize him on guys he wants to shut down completely, and Sandro could do that. In terms of is it better as a whole, it's all about finding the right mix. Everything has to work. And I think back to the match that had Rabiot, Bernardeschi, and Sandro all on the left. It was clunky and it struggled. So, does Sandro, should he play in big games or not? He can, by all means. The rest of it has to work in order to make that actually beneficial for the club as a whole. Because again, talking about this, it's nothing flashy, it's nothing over the top. He's great as a shutdown, but we have to be able to balance what's going to happen in the offensive phase while he's out there. But in a crucial scenario, let's just say like this: if you were going to line up a one-off match, big match, is he going to be your guy starting on that left side?
I think because of his experience, he can be, like you said. I think it all depends on who we're playing and what the game plan calls for. Because we have the depth and the ability to put, like you said, Danilo Corrado, Danilo Chiesa. We have opportunities um, with the players we have. But if a one-off match, I'm laying out a team on paper, I'd put Sandro in my starting lineup, um, and it's just because of confidence and his ability, to be strong on the defensive end. So yes, I would put him, and like I said, there's you know what you get with him. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a tough one. It's actually a tough one. I think if we were in a one-off match, and this probably will surprise many because I've been labeled as this like Quadrado hater or whatnot. I think I'd honestly go with. I think Danilo makes my back three, man. Like if even if we split into a hybrid or we keep it back four, I like Danilo there. I like Chiellini in there, and I like Delict in there. And then I'd put Quadrado on the opposite side, and then work it up from there with McKenny, Bentancur in the middle for me. Chiesa, I think, is out there. And Morata and CR up top. That's probably how I'd line them up. And holy smokes, Antonio. If Antonio comes in, if we were playing against Bayern tomorrow in a final, my team would be the exact same guys I just listed. Holy, get out of my head, buddy. Get out of my head here. Colin coming in here saying his rating for Sandro was 6.5, but noted a marked improvement. Absolutely. And thought the move Sandro pulled in the lead up to Ronaldo goal was clever. Yep, he did. He did well there for sure. Yeah, it's the arguments there for Sandro being in the start 11. Absolutely. I want to go a little bit further in something that we've seen now, a bit of a trend, which is I talked about it yesterday actually on the live, and that's Pirlo keeping Delict and Chiellini split. And I was talking a bit about it because we get a lot of Juventini fired up when they don't see the young Dutchman in there, Delict, thinking he's got to play every single match. We know about the schedule, whatnot. Could Delict handle it? Absolutely. But I think it's actually really, really smart to keep those guys separate because you're always guaranteed that one shutdown guy, that beast in there. And it does two things. Not only does it always guarantee you one of those guys in the heart of your defense, but it also limits Chiellini's minutes in order to help him get through this stretch. So Bonucci injury we talked about, nothing serious, pulled because of precautionary reasons. We know that we have a match coming up on Tuesday, but do we continue to split up Chiellini and Delict? Johnny, your thoughts? Do you like what Pirlo's been doing there? Do you want to see them together? What do you think?
I think for the long haul and the crazy schedule, I think it benefits us. Again, we have the luxury to do so. I have no problem doing that, especially limiting Chiellini's minutes. Chiellini showed that when healthy, he can step up and be the player that we know he is and that has been for us. So I'm okay with this. I'm just curious when we are in, let's just say, a quarterfinals of Champions League, maybe semifinals. Hopefully, you know, what do we do if they're both healthy? We're going to split them up again, or are we going to play them? To me, I'd play them both together in a big match at that stake at that level of the season. I think Danilo, Chiellini, and Delict are our best options. So for now, 100% limit the minutes, get everyone healthy as can be. Let's power through because we have the ability to do so in Serie A and Coppa Italia. But as we move into the later stages of the season, I'd love to see both of them playing, as I feel that's our strongest strongest defense in the biggest competition that we all want to win.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, really. And I mean, I agree with that. I agree with splitting them up at this stage, and then as you get later in the games, kind of start to distance themselves, and then you get your key matchups. Then that's the time where you start talking about getting these guys consistently together or whatnot. So yeah, absolutely. It's just again, everybody's so fired up on wanting that best 11 right out of the gate there all the time, every time. It's just you just can't right now. There's way too many matches. So things will get better and soften up a bit after this Tuesday or Wednesday when we face Merda there for that second leg. After that, there's really only Coppa Italia final, and then it becomes Champions League, how far we go, and Serie A. So it's going to soften up a bit, which will help things. But yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a question that really has Juventini. I've seen so many different types of answers. Again, this goes back to just how we see matches and the feeling the team gives us and whatnot. Are we playing better, or are we just getting results, or is it both? I read an interesting article that kind of covered this team and is still asking questions of whether there's legitimate progress. It also talks about the players, and it says, it was kind of making a comparison on our squad and some others, and just saying, in terms of the players as individuals, are we as strong? But again, I think that it's the context. Do they need to be? They don't need to be. You can have a fantastic team. If we remember Ajax that eliminated us in that Champions League, how many guys do they have that walk on every club in Europe? They had probably, well, they had one for sure, and we have him now. But outside of that, the argument at that time could have been De Jong, but that's not the case. We've kind of seen it. He's kind of going through this phase, but that team's also kind of struggling. I don't think it really matters. I don't think it really matters. It has to come together as a unit, as a whole. Even when you look at a club like Atalanta, how many guys off that team are going to walk into these packed rosters? It doesn't matter because they play well as a unit. And Pirlo, I find it hard to believe we're still questioning the progress, because he's getting us there. We've all talked about the battles he's had to face. I mean, this is an unprecedented year with the COVID, no preseason, absolutely jam-packed schedules. We played 9 matches in January. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But to say that there's little to no progress, trying to compare individuals to other clubs, would they walk on in terms of roster strength? I think our roster is nothing to take lightly by any means. And I think if we're still questioning Pirlo's progress, I think we need to take a step back and watch some of these matches last season, especially, to really, really see how far he's actually come. But your thoughts in terms of this and these comparisons, and still questioning how far we can go in Champions League and whatnot and all this. I actually like our chances because I think we have that element of the surprise and unpredictability because of Pirlo.
Yeah.
So just speak on that a bit, Johnny, and give us your thoughts, and everybody that's joined us live, get your comments in as well.
Yeah, so I have a few, thoughts on this. I mean, you brought up last season, and I feel if we had the same roster that we have now, right, with Sadi as the coach, I don't know if we'd see the likes of certain players like Kulusevski playing as consistently as he does, or certain players in the team playing as consistent, because Sadi was a man of one formation all the time, and you had to kind of fit into his system. So I think that if you're looking at last season to now, I think that we are playing better. I think there are some games where we get results, but experienced teams get results. Juventus is expected to get results. So even if they don't play their best match, we were supposed to go into um, Genoa or whoever and get results, even if it's a hard fought match. So I think that comes with the territory, and we know that not every game is going to be a walk in the park. Um, so I think we are playing better. I think we are getting results in certain matches, and it all's balanced out right by our experience, our quality, and then Pirlo growing as a coach. Pirlo understanding his what he has available to him, and I do agree with you. I think what makes this team dangerous and gives me that hope um, for the latter part of the season in the different competitions is our ability to keep the opposing team and manager and staff on their toes of who we could deploy. And not only that, when we can deploy them. I think we get caught up sometimes on who starts the game, but we don't realize how we can finish the game and who we could bring onto the field. Um, to make to make results, right? So I think we have a lot of depth. It gives us the ability to be very very dangerous, and I think Pirlo's starting to understand that and starting to grow, like I said, as a coach. And I'm excited to see what that leads to at the end of the season. So we are playing better in a nutshell. We are getting results, and I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. And to further elaborate on some of the comments that were going back and forth during this discussion and after the article that I'd read and whatnot, they were saying that event, if you look at them, even just more recently, with the first leg in the Coppa Italia, again, like the first time we faced that side, not generating a lot. And almost when we play the top clubs, sitting back, allowing them to dictate, and we really only control and dictate against some of the lesser clubs. Outside of the one-off matches when we played fantastic, say against Barca and whatnot. And in terms of that, it kind of makes you think. And then you see this match against Roma where we allowed them to, and you would have to think it was part of our game plan almost to hit them on counters. But yeah, in terms of that, can we? And that's what they're asking. That's what these Juventini are asking. Can we control them if we wanted to? And they're saying we essentially can't control a team like Merda there because of their midfield with Barella, Brozovic, and whatnot. Like we can't control them, so we kind of found our goals. Fortunately, they're saying in that first leg against them, kind of like we found our goals. The first one here, fortunately, because Ronaldo made something out of nothing, but we're almost not creating as much as we should, and we're starting to kind of sit back and whatnot. And I think when I kind of think about this and break it down in terms of even just the question itself, are we playing better or just getting results, whatnot? It's better that we're getting the results now because, back then we were drawing. We're in this predicament we're in now because we sacrifice points. Because now, if you put this club, this team, where we're at right now, back then, I don't think we dropped those points. And I think that's the difference now. We have to consider that playing better. Were there outside factors, injuries and whatnot that played part? Absolutely. There's always going to be growing pains, switching managers, and we had to fight through that. Does Juve look improved? Absolutely. Are we playing better? I think so, because even being able to shut a team down is playing better, because our defense, where we were a few months ago, wouldn't have been able to do what we did yesterday, in my opinion. In my opinion, if we were back a couple months ago and Roma pressed us like they did yesterday, we wouldn't have been as solid and cohesive at the back. That's just my personal opinion. So I think we are playing better. I don't think it's a matter of just getting results. I think now we are getting the results because everything's a bit better. Pirlo's a bit better. The players have a bit more confidence and are doing better because now they understand that it's roles. They understand their roles. So before, he was still trying to even find that. So I think questioning this, for me, it's an easy answer. And it goes back to just the progress in general. Yes, there is progress. There's a lot. There's progress we can easily see in our coach, let alone the players. And this is the biggest thing with Pirlo too, even when you look at his starting lineups. Everybody is so focused on not just the guys themselves, but just like, this is our lineup, this is our layout, this is what's going to happen, what's going on, right? But we don't stop to think and break it down as roles. What is Pirlo going to be asking this guy? And I think the best way to do it with Pirlo and for all us Juventini is you can't look at their lineup and just start to say, okay, this is what you is going to do. Take the opposition's lineup, slap it down next to it, and then figure out the roles. And it could start to help you think of how Pirlo's actually thinking, because that's the best way to do it. There are times managers and whatnot, and I know teams that keep it straight base, like this is our lineup, this is what we're going to do, and they all focus on themselves. I think Pirlo doesn't only focus on Juve in his lineup, but I think a lot of it is the roles. It's not just a position, right? So if he's deploying a guy and it looks like he's going to be in this position, it's more of a role. What's this guy going to do? What's his job going to be? Just like Kulusevski was used to shut down Brozovic as much as he could in that first leg. It's roles. Did we sacrifice? Was there a trade-off? We talked about it. We didn't generate as much. Kulusevski was kind of invisible in terms of offense. He had some counterattacking opportunities, but his role in terms of what he had to do, he actually did a pretty good job of, and you have to think about this and look at that way in order to kind of understand Pirlo a little bit more, a little bit further, is think about the roles more than just the position. What do you think in terms of that, Johnny?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to the game plan, like we've said over and over. The game plan calls for every game calls for something different. So I think we need to sometimes sit back and look at the match from a different lens. So Pirlo is a maestro, right? He was, and now he's a coach. So the way they view the game is differently, but he also understands that maybe for that meta of the game, he needed to neutralize Brozovic, and Brozovic is no easy task to neutralize. So to give credit where credit is due, I think Kulu did a good job in his role and what he was called and asked on to do. It goes for all players. Pirlo is asking for a game plan and for a role for these players, and they do it. They're buying in, and they're willing to do it for the team. So that's all positives. That's all good things. And yeah, I just think that that's contributing to a lot of our success. That everyone is buying into their roles and what needs to be done for the betterment of the team long term. And with that, that's a recipe for winning success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're starting to see that. I'm starting to really get that feeling of the team being united. I mean, when we look at that Ronaldo goal, the first, actually was it the second when he stole it from Bastoni? Yeah. And you see Chiesa bombing down that sideline. You see the entire bench jump up. You see Pirlo celebrating as if he's one of the players. It's all coming together, man. I love it. I actually love where we're at right now.
I want to see that, and then I wonder how crucial Pinsoglio is too for this team.
Oh yeah, man. Pinsolio. So good, man. And I love seeing these guys get involved, fight for the team, make the statements they have to when say, I talked about it in this match recap when the ref, I felt there was a lot of stuff just being questionable as far as non-calls and Roberto Baronio there getting sent off, but making it known, right? And then he's like, okay, yeah, I'll walk away. And Pirlo doesn't have to do that. Pirlo can stay there because these guys are making it known when they have to. Pinsolio gave it to one ref after we actually scored because everything seemed to be going against Juve. So it's like, it's they're definitely the fight for one another is there. And as we see the season continue on here, the fight in everybody is there. But now, ever since that Supercopa, they've got the confidence. They've got a bit of swag back, and they're finding a rhythm. I saw a headline today on an Italian paper that said "Non si fermano più," okay, which is they won't stop anymore. And hopefully that's the case because we're gonna need it. We're gonna need it. We need obviously some rivals to drop some points. We took the first one against Milan. We lost the first one against Inter, but again, it's still going to be down to us. I still feel like this one's going to be down to us, but we're getting things rolling in the right direction. Coppa Italia, second leg. That's next on deck for Juve. We know in the first one, we got that 2-1 victory, 2 away goals as well. This one's going to be in Turin. Hakimi and Lukaku will be back in the fold for those guys, and we know that they're going to make a difference. They're going to make an impact. Early signs right now suggest that it's going to be De Ligt and Demiral at the back for Juventus. So I know that's going to have Juventini, of course, always. We're always going to naturally overanalyze, and I love it and look at it. But how confident do we feel going into that one? How do you think the match is going to play out? How would you feel about De Ligt and he's there? And how do you think in terms of match comparison? We've already played this Derby d'Italia twice. So maybe take us back some of your thoughts on the first match, what you saw in the second, in that first leg of the Coppa Italia, and now what you kind of expect to see in that second.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the Derby d'Italia. I think that Merida have been, you know, they've been tough. I think they have a very talented midfield, and I think that attributes to their success. Um, you have to give credit where it's due with Lukaku, Hakimi as well. I think they got the best of us, but they got a team that was still learning under Pirlo for that first leg against them, for the first game in the season. So it's hard to to say that they bested us, but they definitely punched us in the mouth that game, right? And I think it was a wake up call for Juventus. For the Coppa Italia game, I think we stepped up and we answered how we were supposed to, right? So not having Lukaku there and not having Hakimi there for them, right? We took advantage of that. We got the result. I think that was a game that was hard fought. We played hard. We were playing better as a team. And to your point, we got the result that match. And we did what we were supposed to do. Away match, get the win, get the result. Now we got 2 away goals. That's huge. Absolutely huge. So I'm feeling confident going into the second leg of the Coppa Italia. Um, I'm not in love with the idea of De Ligt and Demiral. I think that they're both phenomenal. I feel though in a game like that, you don't need anything crazy out of the back as well. So um, Demiral for me, talented player. Love his tenacity. Love his grinta. He wants to play for the badge. I respect that. I sometimes feel like he's overly aggressive in certain situations, and it could come off as early cards. Sometimes he's prone to a red, so I get a little nervous with that. But maybe if he's alongside Delict or somebody that will kind of coach him out the back, I think that we'll be okay. I'm still okay with the both of them at center back, but I'm confident going into that second leg. I think that we're in Merida's head. I think they know that we're not backing down. They see us climbing up the ladder. We passed Roma this weekend, so I feel like the ball's in Juventus court. I think all the pressure's on Inter for that game. And I think whenever you see Conte under pressure, um, things happen. So I'm excited for that match. I think that our depth, our versatility is going to bode well. So um, I'm calling for a 1-0 win at home, for Juve. So that's my prediction. But we'll see what happens.
Nice. Yeah, it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be an interesting one. Demirel and Delict. I'd be okay again because Delict's out there.
Yeah.
Um, Demirel, yeah, I agree. I think he's got the potential to be a totally solid stud CB. He just needs to polish a bit. That's all. Just needs to polish a bit. There are moments from time to time where the composure isn't there. That I'm not. It is what it is. He's still very, very young.
Yeah.
He's very, very young defender. Will it come? I'm sure it will. I think I have no doubts in the kid. I think he's going to be a beauty. There's also a lot of talks about his potential future, and there are rumors and numbers being thrown out. And I think if the numbers were close to what there's, I mean, you could definitely consider it if you're Juve, depending on outside factors and what ends up happening. I would personally hate to see Demiral leave Juve. I actually do think he's definitely one for the future. Love to have him around for Juve for a long time, as I would Delict. Playing these two, Lukaku coming back, Delict, I have no doubt will be able to handle Lukaku, and we've seen it before. I think he could pocket him, have a good job. Then it becomes the outside factors in the middle of the park. Bentancur has been playing through a nasty foot injury. But I think in the middle of the park, last time we tried to get what Francisco was calling bully ball in there with, Rabiot, McKennie, and Bentancur. Does Arthur need to be in this one, in your opinion, Johnny?
I think I've tweeted this a couple times just to see Arthur's progression. I think he needs to play in every big match, in my opinion. I think he's phenomenal on the ball. I think he gives us control of the situation. And when he has the ball, we tend to pass the ball a little bit more. Critics here and there will say he holds on a little bit too long. Yes, I mean, that comes with players who are good with the ball at their feet. He's very good with the ball at his feet. He's shown that. And I think he's adapting well. I saw a stat somewhere where it was every game that he's played, it was like, I think we've won like 9 out of 10 of those matches or something like that, or 10 out of 11, something crazy like that. I just think what his quality skill set is what we've been kind of lacking in previous years. I don't know if he's going to go out and get you all those goals as maybe a nice trequartista will, but that's not really his game, So I think he needs to play in every big match. I think we can rest him here and there in smaller games in Serie A, but I think he needs to play every big match. I think his quality is deserving of that, and I think he's showing it over the last couple matches. So yes, I think he needs to play.
Yeah, I have to agree there. There's the ability to hold on to the ball is so big for us in the defensive phase. It's that escape. It's that time that sometimes you need to settle in. If we're going to be playing Delict and Demiral, that will be big for Demiral to have Artur there because he's a short pass away. And we know Demiral's one of the knocks on him and his skills and abilities are the ball movement. Get Arthur in there so that he could just take that from Demiral and chew up some time. He can hold possession and then he can progress the ball as it should. So for me, I think if that is going to be the back pairing, I think Arthur has to be in there. I would like to see Bentancur in there if he can go. And do you follow up with McKennie again? I think you do. McKennie got some brutal ratings. And all the ratings I was seeing in this Roma match, he took 5.5s, some fives, just a negative one in there. I think, again, as we spoke to earlier in the pod, it was a little harsh on him in terms of the role he played and everything. But yeah, I mean, would he have got the lowest rating out there? Probably. But I think that was a little harsh, I think, on him. Again, when we factor in roles. But I think Bentancur, Arthur for sure. McKennie, you could argue Rabiot because Rabiot's actually had a few good matches in a row, and he's physical and he's big. And if he starts to provide that support like he did against Roma, that could kind of free up Artur and Benta a bit more as well, where Rabiot kind of slots back and supports on one of the flanks if they push. That could work. That could work too. So I think that spot's kind of open right now. But it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a battle. Omer coming in. And ciao, Omer. Thanks for joining. You must remember we didn't have Delic, Sandro, and Quadrado in that first one. Experience will be key. They were sorely missed in the first match. I agree that they were. I also think we got a lot wrong in that first match in terms tactically as well. We talked about earlier, Johnny and I, Pirlo being able to adjust from one match to the next. He does actually a very, very good job of that. Omar also saying Lukaku, De Ligt will be fire. It will. It's going to be a fun one to watch. This one's going to be intense. Johnny already going out with his prediction, saying we are going to advance. Man, it's going to be a battle. I'm looking forward to it. If we make it to that Coppa Italia final, and that's all we get, people are now already talking successful season. Yes or no? Even just with Supercopa, if that's all we get, I think, honestly, like real short and simple, we're fighting for the title. We won the Supercopa. We're at the Coppa Italia semifinals. Depending how we do on Champions League, I think it's already a success because we've actually started this project. Yet last year was a failure in terms of the project and the change that Juve wanted to make. We've implemented a lot of changes. We have brought down the average age of the squad significantly. We're competing on all fronts. We're halfway through. Pirlo's done well. The players are behind him, so we no longer have any drama of the locker room and what's going on between the relationships between players and managers. He's integrated young players. We've seen U23 guys step in, get minutes. We're seeing so many positives. For me, it'd be a shame based on trophies to call it a failure, ultimately. I think anything we add in terms of hardware on this season is an incredible bonus, to be honest, because I think Pirlo's onto something. The team is making this shift in philosophy and everything. We're getting young guys, and you can see our moves in the transfers are kind of supporting this new approach and where we want to go, which is the future. We're starting to plan and starting to build so that we can be the guys for many, many more years to come. So I think it's harsh if we hold on to that. The project in general, as we wrap up here, Johnny, it's been an absolute blast having you on, just as a whole, and in terms of hardware, where you'd rank come into the season. Some say it's a failure if we don't take that Serie A and go deep in Champions. But your thoughts on calling it a failure or whatnot?
Yeah, it's tough. I think as Juventus, you're always expected to win and win trophies and hardware. I don't think it's a failure considering everything. I think that the project long term is going to be way more crucial to our success, and I think us fans and Twitter community and everyone, we need to just understand that we're going to have success for years to come. And we won 9 Scudetti in a row, and we're on the verge of still competing for a 10th, right? We're in Champions League. We're seeing, like you said, all these young players that I'm telling you, last season we would have never ever seen, right? We would have never seen them, sniff opportunity on the field. So we are building a team for the long haul, for the next decade, really. So it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see that we're turning a page, in the way we play and the style we play. I think, if we still continue to fight domestically and handle our business, right? We can't control the other teams and what they're going to do, but if we handle our business and we finish off strong, then yes, it's a successful season, and I think we will. And then if we do well in the Champions League, and I know that's something that we all want and desire, if we can really push strong in the Champions League and be competitive and get results, I 100% think that it's a successful season, because of the opportunities for the next season, and I think that's what gets me most excited with this team: the endless opportunities, whether it's U23, whether it's development of certain players, whether it's the rise of a player like McKennie or Arthur fitting into the system, and Demiral just playing out of his mind in certain games. I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we'll go into a little bit of extra time here, just seeing a couple quick comments. So, Omar, who do you think should be the third defender? Honestly, I think they'll need Danilo there, considering Chiellini needs rest. Honestly, in this one, the second leg against Merida, I would personally, I think the reason why we saw Cuadrado come off the bench is so that he could be rested up for it. I think Cuadrado is going to be on one side, you'll get Danilo on the other, and probably then De Ligt and Demiral. Maybe, just maybe, you see somebody other than Demiral, but De Ligt, I think 100% De Ligt will play. I think Cuadrado is going to be out there from the start, and I think Danilo should be out there as well. That leaves one spot available. Chiellini, I would prefer resting him, but I would understand if Pirlo played him. But I think that's probably what we'll see. Danilo out there, Cuadrado for sure, and De Ligt, and most likely Demiral. That was coming in. For me, it's a failure if we go out of Champions League to a lesser team like Porto, Lyon, etc. Yeah, I mean, if we put it down to, the teams and say they're lesser, whatnot, but I think a lot of it would be, for me, my personal feeling would be how we go out. Because if we look back to when Ajax eliminated us, we looked spent. We had nothing in the tank. We didn't fight as hard as we should have at home or whatnot. We also have to remember these two-legged ties in Europe are extremely, like, anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen. So for me, the biggest thing is, how do we go out? If we go out fighting, if we put our best foot forward and we just don't get the breaks, so be it. Does it suck? Yeah. In terms of the Champions League, I think we should get past Porto. I think we have the team that could do it. And I actually like our chances stacking up really against kind of anybody out there outside of maybe one team. But, man, I still think it's hard to say it's a failure if we put our best foot forward and really, really fight and just don't get the breaks and just fall out. Like, what do you think, Johnny? Do you agree with me? Or
Yeah, I think if we go out there with everything we have and there's things that don't fall for us, it's hard to say that it's a failure. You just, like I said, we need to look at this season from a different lens and be open minded. But I think with our team, if we're healthy and the quality that we have, anything can happen for sure. But I think that we'll be in good shape, with teams like Porto, and in the next stage. We just need to go out there, play our game. If things don't fall for us, it happens. It's part of the game. It's what makes this game the beautiful game. But I'm confident we'll handle our business if everyone's healthy.
you betcha. Last and certainly not least, Paulo Dybala may be available for the Coppa Italia second leg.
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
Do we expect him to start? Probably not. There's no way he's going to be starting. Will we see a cameo? I still say maybe not. But how do you think Paulo Dybala can fit into this team? There's some shouts being made to see Morata, Ronaldo, and Dybala out there, which I can't see fitting in this setup. Could he play? And here's my thing: if we have either CR is not going anywhere, rightfully so. He's got one spot out of the top two. I see the 9 being so important in this setup for the most part, that Morata's huge. Kulusevski, when he plays up there, we see a different element. We almost missed the 9. So I see Kulusevski and Dybala needing Morata to be out there when they're out there, in order to be able to succeed and have that target guy they could play off of. So what do you think? How does Dybala slot in now that he comes back?
Dybala is tough for me. I even on Twitter amongst our rival fan bases, they've labeled me a Dybala fanboy and things like this, just because I'm very complimentary of his skill set. I love Dybala, what he brings. It's difficult for me to think about where he falls now with this team, considering that we're kind of, the wheels are moving and it's moving in a positive, state moving forward. But I like to see Dybala. I do not like to see him out wide. I know he's had success as a number 9. He's dangerous in the box. He can turn on a dime and shoot. We know this. He's dangerous from outside the box. I still like to see the Morata as the true number 9. I think it's so valuable to our DNA and to how Juventus build up. I mean, Morata did a lot last game and didn't score, and he was still so valuable to our contribution. So personally, I don't think we're going to see him in the second leg. We've been told we're going to see him in February for sure. I'd like to see him right behind our 2 strikers. That's how I always viewed him. That's how I've always thought his skill set is best. I know it's maybe not something we're going to see probably, but personally, just someone who's been around the game, I've coached, I think his skill set needs to be in the game, in this team some way, somehow. We need to figure a way to make it work, because he's one of those players where when his confidence is up, he can be so decisive. So I like to see him slot right behind Morata and Ronaldo. Just a floating 10. I don't want to say like a true, but come back into the midfield.
So here's where it becomes
balance, right?
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is just if he's going to slot in there, you'd have to play a 3-5-2,
Correct,
essentially, to make him one of those third central guys that can play in that hole. And then it throws Pirlo's kind of defensive base of the 4-4-2. It just makes it harder to achieve, and it asks a lot of Dybala defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. I agree with you. I think on his day, when he's on, he's unplayable. He's unplayable. But the thing is, I also understand fans that may have issues with his consistency. But man, it's crazy. It's such a frustrating problem to have, that you just can't seem to slot a guy like this in there. Number 10s as a whole, like true guys that play like a true 10, are becoming kind of rare in football nowadays, just in general. And that's kind of the thing that's kind of happened with Paulo. Unfortunately, it's hard to slot him in, because most formations now are 4-3-3 or in that variation. And again, you're talking about either slotting him out on the wing. In a true 3-man midfield, it's hard to dedicate one as being the 10, because that leaves you with strictly 2 as like pivots almost. So loading up at the back in a 3-5-2 gives you the best chance of making that happen, or even a 4-2-3-1. But then you're asking a lot of those wing backs. And then again, if we're factoring in Ronaldo being one of those guys, he ain't going to be the guy that's tracking back, that's doing that work. So yeah, it's just such a frustrating problem to have with such a talented player. But it's the way football's going, man. These 10s are getting they're getting tough to slot in there, and they're kind of becoming a dying breed. They really are. Could Dybala work in just a front two with these guys? Sure, he could. But what we saw a lot of before Dybala kind of went on this injury layoff was that he and Ronaldo do way too much roaming. And I see the same thing when Kulishevsky's out there with Ronaldo. There's a lot of freedom out there for those guys, and you don't have that focal point. You just lose that target guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how Pirlo can get him back into the fold as he returns. But that's literally coming up very, very quick. Possibility for Kopitar's second leg, he could be on the team sheet. Outside of that, probably looking at Porto. It'd be nice if he could have some minutes before Porto. Whether or not Pirlo even would start him, be beyond the we'll have to see. But to be able to pull even a guy like Dybala, you talk about impact subs. Huge to be able to pull a guy that talented off the bench too, man. Antonio coming in saying Dybala is so important for us in this period. Personally, I'm looking forward to Arroyo coming back. Forza Paulino. Absolutely. Dell's coming in. I disagree regarding Dybala's best position. I think he's deadliest in and around the area. Playing as a trequartista just doesn't suit him, as we've seen over the years when it was tried. Well, I agree and disagree in terms of he's never truly been trequartista. He's been given a bit of freedom always off one flank prior when we look at the Allegri days. Even Sarri, when we look at Sarri did well with him, but he slotted him there because he was playing with Gonzalo and CR. And another thing is he truly was trequartista with Sarri in some ways, just he would start out there. With Allegri, he was required so much defensively. He was burning all his energy. With Sarri, it was more focus up ahead, and that's why he was able to do damage and whatnot. He can do damage in a top two or whatnot, but to say it's his true spot now, he's lost the pace he had at Palermo. At Palermo, he was much quicker when he played as a 9. But also the physicality, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that strength or whatnot. He can't be like that focal point up top, and he does his best damage when he can look up the pitch and see. That's why he needs to be a little bit behind, so that he can see where that ball needs to progress to and make his moves. He does great 1-2s. So again, it's all how we read the game, how we see things, whatnot. But man, in the front two, we'll see what happens. We'll see if Pirlo can unlock it and get it going. But I do agree we need to get these guys in the danger areas. I said it a lot about CR7. You talked about it earlier, Johnny, saying he's been a little bit off in terms of his standards in several matches. And for me, what I said, and we saw it on the first goal against Roma, get him in the dangerous areas. If you have a guy that's kind of off and he is noticeably, clearly frustrated, you could see it in his attitude, get him in the danger zones. I don't want to see a Ronaldo holding possession, like useless possession out on the sideline, making these backheel passes for no reason. Get him in the money spots where he could do damage. That's exactly what happened on the first goal. Just get him in an area. He needs to trust his teammates that they'll get him the ball. So he needs to have more faith in them. They need to do better, make sure he ensures he gets service, but get this guy in the danger zone. Same with Dybala when he comes back. Same with Morata. Same with a guy like Kulusevski. Chiesa needs to be utilized anytime he's out there. He is the guy we need to make sure triggers 1v1 scenarios. In this match against Roma, we talked about the trade-off. And it was shutting them down, holding them out to wings. In turn, we kind of shut ourselves out in terms of Chiesa's effectiveness. But overall, you get the win. It's a 2-0 win. It's a clean sheet. We're all happy. We move on to the Coppa Italia. Dybala's coming back. There's a lot to look forward to. But, man, it's been awesome chatting Juve with you. Awesome covering this all. We'll see what happens with Juve in the future. Pirlo has a ton of options. What he's going to do, time will tell. But your final thoughts with Del's 09 disagreeing on Dybala's best position. I think he's deadliest in and around that area. As trequartista, he's supposed to be around that area. Yeah. Let's just remember that. It's not taking him away from that area. Right? So, Johnny.
Yeah, I agree. I think the number 10, I mean, you see somebody like Messi, but Messi has to take touches with the midfield, and he's floating a little bit. But with Dybala, I expect him to be in and around the area. I expect him to play off of Morata 1-2 touch and just rip a shot with that left foot, right? So I expect him to finesse his way into the box and slot one past the goalie. I mean, he's capable of all these things. So as a trequartista, yes, I do expect him to be in and around the box, and him in that role does not remove him from there. I think it only emphasizes his role at the top of the box and in and around the area. Like we said, it just balanced. So we need to make sure that our wing backs are moving up, because for him to play that role, it does need to be that 3-5-2. So you put your strong defense out there and your three center backs that we've talked about, maybe Chiellini, De Ligt, and either Dembele or Danilo or whoever. And you have to make sure that you have somebody like Guardado and Sandro on the wing backs who are willing to go up and down the field to make up for that lack of defensive prowess from Dybala. So there's a lot of things to consider. It's fun and it's like fantasy talk, but his talent is worthy of being out there. I'm hoping that he's gonna really do wonders for us second half of the season and carry on. So I think he's ready to make a statement.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Last but not least, the hard-hitting question. Will Juventus win that 10th straight Scudetto? Putting you on the spot here. Do you think we do it?
I could give my answer, and then I feel like I'm gonna get the Twitter hate. Let me see. Personally, I don't think we're gonna win the Scudetto. I want to with all my heart. I want that 10th one. I don't know if we've dug ourselves too big a grave in terms of figuring things out in the beginning of the season, and I just, if the other teams mess up, ahead of us, I don't even want to mention them because it bothers me to say their name, but I don't think we will. Please do not get at me. I want to win more than anything. We have to just play out and win. It's at this point, it's not in our control. The other teams, if they drop points, then what's going to happen. Juventus is going to smell blood. So we just have to keep the pressure on and hope for the best. But if you ask me right now, do we lift the trophy? I say no.
Well, I appreciate you giving your honest answer. That's all I asked for. And you're right. We do got to just keep winning, and we need some results with rivals to go our way. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's going to be an exciting ride nonetheless. So thanks again, Johnny, for joining me. We'll be back, everybody, with the pre-match live for the Coppa Italia second leg against Merda. And join us then again, live at 5. That's how we like to do it. Thanks again, everybody who joined us live. Questions and comments, they were great. And we'll see you for that Coppa Italia second leg. As always, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.